If you take a moment to be vulnerable and ask that question, you will find somebody in this room that can solve your problem.
I'm Danielle with Sona Events, and I'm here today with Haley Janicek with ConvertKit.
Heyo.
You are responsible for all the events that ConvertKit puts on.
I am.
And the creator experiences, and
I am.
Give me some context to the events you put on.
Oh gosh. Okay. That's not fair. What if I give you what if I start out on how I started out doing events at ConvertKit?
Okay,
how I landed here. Okay. That's an easier story for me to tell. Okay. So I was actually just talking about this. July 5th was my 7-year anniversary with ConvertKit, which is absolutely mind blowing to me. I don't know how it's been that long. And when I joined the team, I actually joined the team on the sales side of things. And when I joined on the sales side of things, Nathan, our CEO, right, was like, well, I want you to close these big accounts. And I was like, well, these I can't just cold email James Clear and be like, hey, So I started going to events because I know that this industry works really thrives off relationships. And I was like, well, if I'm going to the event, we might as well have a booth at the event.
Yes.
And so that's really how I started owning events, is because I was a salesperson who wanted to fill my own pipeline, and events was the best place to do that. And then I started, I'm very detail oriented when it comes to visuals and representation and experience and all that stuff. So then, I started booking all of the events that we sponsored. And really, that's how I got into it. And
I love it.
And eventually, I started owning our own conference, Craft and Commerce.
Yes. Well, and I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. Wasn't your first day at ConvertKit at the event that
yes.
you're now responsible for?
Yes. In fact, you and I talked about this, about how that was essentially the day that we met.
Yes,
because
true.
You have been with us for the entirety of us running this event. You also manage all of our retreats. So you're basically a ConvertKit employee.
Sort of.
That's not sort of, but not a ConvertKit employee.
I'm a part of the team, but not part of the team. I don't partake in profit sharing, which maybe we should change that.
You feel like a part of the team. So my first day was July 5th, and I want to say the week before was Craft and Commerce. So I showed up to the event before I even technically started.
Yeah.
And got to experience, I think it's was the greatest step into the creator economy, and understanding our business and understanding our customers. And I remember thinking that day, how the heck did I end up here? And how the heck did I get so lucky? Because our customers are so cool and so inspiring. In fact, speaking of James Clear, he was on stage that year before he actually did his keynote on getting 1% better, which is a major theme and topic in his book, Atomic Habits. And just resonated with me because I was an athlete and we used to talk about getting 1% better all the time. And I just remember being like, oh my God. This is so amazing. I get to be here. I get to work here. So that was Craft and Commerce, my first real day at ConvertKit.
Awesome. I love it. That was actually my first, real day. Not really, but sort of. Okay, so you go to a lot of events. You participate in a lot of events. One of the things that I really love, because like you said, my company's been a part of planning Craft and Commerce since day one, which I think was in 2016 or 17.
Yeah.
I don't know. Do you know?
17.
17. Mm-hmm. And it's always been kind of we've worked with various people within the organization. And at the time, there was only 20 people at ConvertKit, however long ago. And now there's 80, almost 90 people at ConvertKit. And so the internal contact for us has always changed, or it's been a group of people. But something that I've really appreciated about working with you over the last 2 years is your ability to come in and have a vision for specifically company goals. And because I don't show up on those team calls and I don't know what's happening on a weekly basis or a monthly basis or quarterly basis. And so we're just like, we have all these ideas, we can do a lot of things, but if it doesn't make sense for the company, then we don't want to do them, right? So I've appreciated that with you, bringing in not only vision, but creativity to the creator experience as well as partnerships.
Yeah.
Can you talk about how you think about the events in terms of creativity or accomplishing company goals?
Oh, yeah. Okay. Well, I think let me like step back a little bit because I think that this context will really help. It's like when we first started working with you, we had more of a team that was working on craft and commerce, right? And if
like a committee.
Yeah, a committee. Yeah. And if you actually remember, which I know you do, you launched the very first craft and commerce with 3 months, right?
Yes.
You put together craft and commerce in 3 months.
Yep.
And it came out of, we do team retreats twice a year. It came out of this idea in February, I think, maybe February and March.
It was something like that.
Yeah. And then the event was hosted in June, right? And in the beginning, when Craft and Commerce was like first initiated, our team was much smaller, and it was this huge initiative that the entire team was taking on, and everybody was focused on creating this one event for creators. And as a really small and agile team, it was awesome because everybody was really invested and involved in this one mission, right?
Yeah.
Now, as we have continued to grow as a business, our team, not to say that we're less focused on craft and commerce, right? But we have other massive initiatives. We have more people on the team. We have more product focus. We have our CEO, Nathan, right, has gotten more involved in other things. And we're just at a very different stage in our business. And so craft and commerce really needed and over the years, it's kind of changed like who's owned it. And so over the years, you've taken on more responsibility than maybe like the traditional events team would because you knew our business so well. And we've adapted like various different models on how our team puts on craft and commerce. And then in the last 2 years, I have owned it internally. And having one person own the event internally really allowed it to like start to flourish again in partnership with you. So I think that context
that's helpful.
Definitely helps.
Because I bet there's a lot of people out there watching this going, well, not one person has time for this. And so it's a collective effort.
Yeah.
And we're actually saying like, hey, take the collective effort, but also create some focus because there's so much more intentionality and directive because there's one vision and not 10.
Yes. I feel like me stepping into this role and owning craft and commerce has been so fun for me because, as I said before, I sponsored so many other events.
Yeah.
So I have so many opinions on what makes a really good event from multiple different perspectives. So, okay, from I am going to sponsor an event, I have very specific KPIs that I'm trying to hit, right? So from we're trying to get the right partners at ConvertKit or at Craft and Commerce. I have that perspective, like, okay, what are their goals? What makes it what will make it a really successful event for them? So I have that perspective. Then I have a perspective as like going to an event as an attendee. Okay, what makes this event really special as an attendee? And then I have, like my own perspective as an event organizer in partnership with you. It's like, how do I want to create this event that best represents our company, our mission, our values, that serves our creators? And so I think that's what has made me like really enjoy putting on this event. And quite honestly, just like being successful on all the fronts for this event. Has just been because I'm kind of like very uniquely positioned to understand each like intentional focus that makes a really good event.
Yeah. I love that. So what are some of the things that after attending so many events and then getting into craft and commerce, what are some of those things that you're like, no, we're totally doing this, or this is the experience that I want my attendees to have because I didn't get this somewhere else? Like, what are some of those ideas?
Oh, yeah. Okay. So So I had this conversation very recently with the women that run Create and Cultivate.
Okay.
And I was obsessed with the way that they said this. And it was like the way that the language that they used to describe this. But we were just chatting about like the idea of us sponsoring their event, right? And in all of the way, like the language they used, they kept talking about her. And they Create and Cultivate is an event that focuses on like mostly the female entrepreneur. And they just talked about her, like supporting her and creating the right environment for her. And her, right, is their attendee. It's their like the ICP, like their perfect target audience for who they want to come to this event. And I think that creating an event for your attendee is like just like having like an understanding of who your attendee is, like a super clear understanding of why you want them there, the value that you're bringing to them, and putting them at the front and center and focus of everything that you're doing is like the most valuable and important thing for any event organizer. Yeah. And in my case, I am thinking, okay, what and who are the most important sponsors for them, my attendee,
yeah,
right? And what speakers does my attendee want to hear? And what workshops do my attendees need to attend? And what relationships do my attendees need to build? And if you can put all of that, like create, like you can really thoughtfully answer all of those questions. I think that's like what makes a really good event when you're thinking about the attendee and the attendee experience. But most importantly, and you and I have discussed this at length, the most important thing for any event organizer is to create the best possible experience from a relational perspective for the attendee, because the creator economy, like everybody wants to be in the creator economy because they're like, oh, I want the lifestyle, like I love that. But then it's like actually really isolating. It's like really isolating to be a creator. And it's something that I have learned, and the initiative, like the actual reason why Craft and Commerce exists, right? Like from the start, and I know you've had this conversation with Nathan, is because Nathan, our CEO, and one of his good friends, Barrett, who used to work at, Be Very Integrated and was at ConvertKit as well, they met at a conference called World Domination Summit. And they ended up meeting this group of people that they created this mastermind with. And they have like their creative and entrepreneurial journeys, they've like walked aside, beside one another. For the last like 10 or 15 years, just from going to that event, right? And so when they decided like we want to create Craft and Commerce, they wanted to create it because they were trying to create an environment for creators to connect, to have that same sort of experience. And creators are they're just missing that connection and real life, tangible connection with other creators. And so that's what we're trying to create with Craft and Commerce, is those like real tangible relationships that really have an impact on your life and your business.
It's been done so well at Craft and Commerce. I mean, you pat yourself on the back, right?
Yeah.
Over the last like 7 years, because it's been so successful in creating those connections among attendees.
Yeah.
People have started businesses together and are making millions of dollars. I mean, it's literally because I met you and you did this and I did this. And oh my gosh, there's this natural like synergy and partnership between what we do. People have created new companies and new products, and they're out there selling them to the world and have these long established friendships. So it's like, Nathan comes and wants to create something similar, and he's doing that, and he's seeing the fruit of that, of having an idea and creating a conference and a place for people to connect and create community for the future and wealth.
Yeah, and wealth. In fact, that leads me to like booking talent. And this is like by far one of my favorite things to do, by the way, is find the right speakers that make sense for our audience. And this year, I was so excited for our speaker lineup, but in particular, I was so excited to have John Meese, who actually opened our conference, and this year, because he is I don't know, he's what I would call a super connector.
Yeah.
He's like he's amazing and he's so good about it. And actually at the end of last year, John sent me an email. It might have even honestly been at Craft and Commerce. He sent me an email saying like, I really want to speak at Craft and Commerce. Like, how do I make this happen? So like midway through the year, he was, pinged me again and I said, okay, let's jump on a call and chat about this. And he gave me this whole pitch, right? Like, this is what I want to give him a talk on. And I was like, I love that. That's such a good talk, John. It's such a good idea for somebody else. Because I want you to talk about essentially being a super connector at an event because he does it better than anyone.
Yeah.
And his keynote this year opened up our conference and it really set the stage for essentially using the event to build relationships. And his whole talk was basically about serving, and connecting and just like laying the groundwork for the best ways to do that, whether you're an introvert or whether, you're just like not super comfortable in large groups of people. But he does this thing like strategic selfies and I just like freaking love it. And he's been to, I think he's one of the few people, he's been to all 7 Craft and Commerces. 6?
Outside of us.
6 or 7 outside of us. And it was amazing. And it was such a good talk. And he's just done such a wonderful job. But one of the things that he said, which I really, really valued and loved, is that in this room, let's imagine that we're at Craft and Commerce. And he's like, in this room, there is everybody in this room, or there is somebody in this room that can solve a problem that you're currently facing. Mm-hmm. And if you take a moment to like be vulnerable and ask that question, you will find somebody in this room that can solve your problem. And then he did this, he showcased a list of different people that he had met at Craft and Commerce that have impacted his business, whether it be monetarily, relationally, impacted his life in some way or another, introduced him to somebody else that had a huge impact on his business. And the whole point is that your business is in this room. And if you just take the time and intention to recognize that, then events can be so, so, so impactful on your success.
I recently attended an event. Actually, you were sponsoring it.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
But I remember going, because I haven't been to somebody else's event in a very long time. Mm-hmm. And I walked in and I was super pumped and excited. And it was like nice, like not being part of it.
Yeah.
Just attending it and experiencing it. And I remember going, we do the connecting and the community really well.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of times event organizers, they're so focused on the stage, the agenda, the venue, the logistics. Mm-hmm.
And all those things are really important, by the way.
Totally. I mean, they're needed.
Yeah.
And if those things aren't really well done, then the experience is impacted. But all of that's fine. All of that's great. But what happened, and that's a lot of work and it's exhausting to do all of those things. Mm-hmm. And then to book your speakers and communicate with them and like all of the travel logistics and all that. And then it's like, okay, now the event's here. And then we're so focused on just like making sure the doors are open and the coffee's going and the catering's there and this and that and blah, 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 all the eventy stuff that we almost forget, like, ooh, are we taking a minute to make sure that we're bringing people together in a intentional way and facilitating those relationships? Because if we just build it and they will come, sure, they'll come. But if we don't actually do something during that time that benefits them relationally, then we're missing the mark. Mm-hmm. And I think that applies to across the board for like almost any event. If we're not taking super good care of that element, that's the missing link, in my opinion.
Yeah.
When it comes to, was this event really well done or was something missing? It's that piece.
Yeah. One of the things that I really love that we do at Craft and Commerce is we do attendee and sponsor and quite honestly, anybody that's involved, led meetups. Mm-hmm. And we actually allow attendees to submit their meetup online on our website, and then we will publish it, assuming that it doesn't conflict with keynote talks or workshop slots or whatnot. And that is one of the coolest things that I think that we do. Not a lot of conferences do that. But it allows everybody to go look at the agenda and see all of the various things that are happening across the city that are attendee led. And it's just like a really intentional way for you to either join a group that you aren't familiar with, that you want to be more familiar with, or host something and just like create more opportunities. And that's one of my favorite things about Craft and Commerce. It's also one of my favorite things about having it in Boise, because Boise is just a cool place. And I love, like,
don't tell anyone.
Don't tell anybody. Don't tell anybody. Yeah.
Just kidding.
Yeah.
But yeah, everything's walkable. It's easy to get to. It creates a really great environment. And you run into people on the street,
it's
all
so
the time.
fun.
So it's really
fun.
nice. So along those lines though, like in order to create that kind of intentionality, like you're actually really purposeful in thinking about how all of the elements work together, from selling sponsorships and bringing in the right partners and facilitating needs that meet their goals and objectives, but then also add value to attendees. So one of my favorite moments of this year's event was being able to partner with Mighty because they were our opening party sponsor. But we could have left it at that and just put their logo, on a board and said, a sponsorship activation check, right?
Yeah.
But there was more to it that made more sense, because you're thinking about the attendee experience, but you're also thinking about the sponsor needs because you understand both sides.
Yeah.
Can you talk about how you created this really cool activation that really got people connected right from the beginning?
Yeah. Okay, there's so many layers to this question. So here's like I said, I feel really uniquely positioned to like think about it from a different think about it from all perspectives, right? Because I go and I sponsor events. I put on my own event, right? I attend events. And this year I was super, super intentional about picking sponsors, because we have a ton of people that are like, can I sponsor Craft and Commerce? And I'm like, no, no, you can't, because you're not the right fit. And we also have like limited space in our event venue. So it's like, I only want sponsors that make the right sense for our attendee. I'm not just going to take your money because you're offering me money, right?
Yeah.
I also want them to be super successful. And this year, we have an integration with Mighty Networks, which is amazing. It's a very cool integration. So if you run a community and you also use ConvertKit, like go check that integration out. It's great. But one of the things that I was thinking about with sponsors this year is how do we basically integrate them more into the event, rather than, like you said, just putting their name on a logo and saying that you're sponsoring. I feel like that's just a bunch of fluff, quite honestly, and it doesn't have the impact. So this year what we did, and this is like my favorite thing that we did this year, is that we actually partnered with Mighty to create a Craft and Commerce community on Mighty Networks. So we now have our own community that will maintain and live on past the event until the following year. And if you buy tickets for next year's event, you'll automatically get added into the community. You can connect with attendees inside of the community. It has the agenda inside the community. It allows, like, there's so many amazing, like all the amazing things that come from having and running a community. I am telling you, if you run an event, create a community. Do it on Mighty. They were so amazing. And as our opening party sponsor, what we did is we had Nathan, our CEO, and Christy, who's from the Mighty team, get up on the main stage and actually run the attendees through like a live experience on the Mighty app. Now, I definitely think, now this was like our first time doing this, and there are definitely things that we could have done better. But here is the thing that made this so effective. Our mission was to get people, one, in the app. Number two, talking. And they did those things, right? They signed into the app. They experienced the app, which was a +1 for my sponsors, which was a +1 for me, right? Because my sponsor was happy. But then it got the attendees doing and activated inside of the app. And then number three, it actually got them talking to each other. We basically ran them through like, a kind of like I said, a live experience. where they were forced to go like mingle with people in the room at our opening party.
And it was so successful.
And it was so successful that like, the like question like 4 and 5, right? Nathan was on stage and they're like, not really fully paying attention to him.
Yeah.
Paying attention to us. But the thing is that it worked. It got people talking.
The whole point is that it worked.
That is the whole point, is it got people talking. And the Mighty team was super happy. I was super happy. And we were really intentional with every single one of our sponsors this year with things like that. So we did main stage sponsors with Teleprompter Premium. We can talk about that, and with Show It as well.
Yeah.
And they were the most impactful and way more successful than just having them have a booth.
Yep.
And waiting for people to come up and talk to them.
Yeah. Okay, so this activation at the opening party with Mighty was so successful that, our 2 people on stage kind of like got kicked off because it was so successful with conversations. Yeah. But tell me more about, because partnerships and sponsorships at events are so important because it's not only a financial piece to the economic piece of the event structure, but if you don't perform or help them have value, they're not going to come back, right? So that's one piece of it. But the second part of it is that you want them to be integrated as they're a part of the event, that they don't just have a booth and hope that people walk by.
Okay, this is literally my biggest pet peeve. Every single time I go to an event, or let's say I get on a call with somebody, right, who wants me to sponsor their event.
Yeah.
And they're like, here's the gold star package.
Silver, bronze.
And the gold silver package includes your name, 3 social posts, and your name on all of the emails, and this and that. And I'm like, meh, 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 meh. Honestly, I'm like, I don't even want to hear this. This is so lame. And I was like, this is a bunch of fluff. And I was like, and look, your event attendees, and I'm sorry by saying this, but like, maybe I'm being too forward here, but your event attendees, like, they're over flooded with information, right? Yeah. With the agenda items, with the sponsors that are there. Yeah. They just glance at it and it's just not, I don't believe it's that much value, right? And so when I think about spending my dollars as a sponsor for an event, I want to have somebody on stage speaking, right? I want to have provide them a really cool offer. I want to be able to teach them. There's so many things that I want to be able to do that I'm just like, okay, let's strategize on that sort of things, and not putting my name and logo at the end of an email, which I get it. It's still valuable.
You got to do that stuff anyway.
Yeah. So what we did this year, this is a test. Okay. So what I did this year is we had 2 main stage sponsors. I thought it was so fun. Show It and Teleprompter Premium. I gave each of them 90-second spots, right? They got 3 90-second spots on the main stage. Mm-hmm. And we collaborated and brainstormed on what those 90-second spots were going to look like and what we were going to do. Now with Show It was so fun. What we did is we created, and this was actually really dynamic because we even included another sponsor. So we created this amazing giveaway where the Show It team gave away a year on Show It. They picked a creator in the audience. Now, Show It, if you're not familiar with them, it's a really easy website builder, drag and drop builder. And we know as creators that our brand, your brand has to be beautiful in this crowded marketplace. And they want to make it super easy to do, right? It's like Canva. It's like using Canva. It's so easy, And Show It it's so easy to build a website versus doing something on WordPress. You don't have to be a designer to be able to create a beautiful website. So what they did is they created essentially offered a year of Show It. They redesigned one of our attendees' websites from scratch, but they used a template from Tonic Site Shop, who was another one of our sponsors. And then over the course of the 3 days, they basically profiled the progress of the website transition from old site to new site. And then we unveiled it at the event. It was so fun. They got to come up on stage, talk about it. And we were also able to provide real value to an attendee that was activated during the event, right? Yeah. And so that was something really cool that we were able to do.
Well, and it's all about giving first.
Yes.
it also showcased a product in real time.
And everybody got to see it.
Yeah.
Everybody got to see how easy it is to take a boring website that's out of date and turn it into something that was like beautifully well designed and really represented the creator and their business.
And on top of this too, they had a nice big TV at their booth with the person actually building it.
Yeah.
So when they were not on the main stage, they were also walking by the booth and saw somebody actually creating it.
Yes.
Which then probably caused a lot of conversations to happen. And luckily there was more people there to talk about the product. But yeah, it was just like a full circle, highly activated sponsorship.
Yeah. And then we did the same thing with Teleprompter Premium, which I am telling you,
You're obsessed with this video.
Joe and his team at Teleprompter Premium created like a Super Bowl level ad spot. It was so funny. Even when I think about it or talk about it now, it was so funny. And that was their 90-second. They created this amazing ad spot. We'll drop the link somewhere, because it was so good. And the whole idea, right, is that that as creators, like you get in front of a camera and you're like, can't remember how to say something or you're saying something wrong, and how much easier it is when you have a teleprompter in front of you. And so they just created this funny ad spot, like walking through that experience. And then they had at their booth, they had the opportunity for creators to essentially record a single line.
Something they had never read before.
Something they had never read before. It was so funny. And then they put together this amazing compilation video, and then we shared it on the main stage. And it was funny. It was creative. It was witty. It was a really good use case, like example of using their product. And it was so cool. It involved like us and our team, all of the attendees. And I was just like so impressed with it. But it was a perfect example of like really showcasing in a real life experience the tool that they were trying to profile and the value that it has to creators. And I loved it.
Yeah, it was good.
It was so fun.
I'm going to put the link in.
Yeah.
So check the link below. But it was so good. And it just showcases when you start thinking outside of your gold, silver, bronze packages and just the basic template, that when we get intentional and when we get creative, the activations are so much more significant and meaningful to the sponsor, but also to the attendee. Yeah. And I feel like that's just like, that's like the golden ticket right there. Selling these high value creative sponsorships.
Really sponsorships should be seen as partnerships and not as sponsorships, right? Like my ultimate long-term goal is that every sponsor that sponsors Craft and Commerce is also a ConvertKit partner, and we have other ways that we integrate with them throughout the rest of the year. And if I can accomplish that, then I can provide significantly more value to any one of our sponsors, and it will make them want to return.
Yeah, I love it. I want to talk about just the attendees experience.
Ooh, okay.
Okay. So we talked about meetups.
Yes.
We talked about our opening party.
Yes.
And we haven't talked about some of the other ways that we help connect and build community. Okay. And something that I really love that we do as well is, again, it's just thinking about the end user, the attendee who's coming, this between speakers and just somebody who's never bought a ticket before. How do we make them feel comfortable and welcomed and included, right? So I'll let you talk about some of your favorite ideas, but one of my favorites is our speaker dinner.
Oh, yes.
We bring in, a lot of our speakers, they're creators themselves, they're YouTubers, podcasters, bloggers. What else we got here?
All the things.
Newsletter writers.
All the things.
Whatever, authors. And we wanted to create an opportunity for them to like get something of value, that they're not just coming for a meal and chatting and then like going back to the hotel, but we created like these lifestyle photo opportunities, and we partner with a local company here, Ampersand Studios, and they've been a part of Craft and Commerce for many, many years. Yeah. And it's just such as like added value bonus that like now people are like, oh yeah, I'm totally going to the speaker dinner because I want those photos.
I'm not going to name who did this. I am not, but you know who you are. I'm not going to name who did this, but the number of people that attended the speaker dinner last year that dropped in Okay, speaker dinner is for speakers plus ones, sponsors. That's it, right?
Yeah.
I, again, have been to a number of speaker dinners, okay? And, like, I'm not going to, like, I don't want to throw every event under the bus, but I just think that we do it better than anybody else. And last year, we incorporated this idea kind of by accident.
It was kind of by accident.
I would say, like, all of our speaker dinners historically haven't been this awesome. But by accident, because the venue that we hosted the dinner at happened to be directly next door to Ampersand Studios, we're like, hey, this would be so fun to be able to bring you in and like do a photo shoot in your studio. And it ended up like being such a massive hit, number one. And number two, like Franny and Nicole, who own Ampersand, they're creators themselves, right? So like they have courses, they do lots of things. And so they're already embedded in our ecosystem. They understand like our attendees. And we just had the most fun. We provided so much value to them. They all walked away with headshots or with like photos that they could use
and not
in their
just
content
like
creator business.
Headshots.
Like really good stuff. It was so fun. And so that was something that was like just like so fun that we did at our speaker dinner. And that's like a very intentional experience that we're trying to create for like obviously a small subset of our attendees. But it was just like, it's the best. It was so fun.
Yeah, so fun.
Yeah.
So there's that. And then we also host a mastermind.
Oh, are we talking about the mastermind?
Oh, dude.
It's kind of a secret.
Shh.
Okay.
You want to talk about it.
Okay. It is a little bit of a sensitive topic because we do host a mastermind at Craft and Commerce. Not everybody knows that we do this. It's gotten around, I guess, because everybody wants to.
It's not really a secret anymore, I guess.
It's not really a secret. Everybody wants to come to the mastermind.
It was never supposed to be a secret. It just worked out that way.
Yes. Okay. So, there we go. It's okay. Here's the deal with the mastermind. We, from the very beginning, hosted like a small mastermind, and it has grown essentially over the years. But we host a mastermind specifically, again, for invite-only attendees as well as the entire speaker lineup. And that's typically because we're trying to pair creators that are at, like the same level in their business. Like it wouldn't make sense to have every attendee in that room, right? You'd be insanely overwhelmed. Like, oh my gosh, there's like so many things that are happening in here. But it's one of the biggest value adds that I think that we have at Craft and Commerce. And the attendees, the people that have attended that year over year, they're like, I come for the mastermind. And it's one of my favorite things that we do at Craft and Commerce for a select group of attendees. And I don't know, I think about this all the time. It's like, how can I create that experience for more of our attendees? And that like moves into the whole, it's like, what can we do better? And what are other ways that we can continue to like level up Craft and Commerce? And I don't know the answer yet. I think I might have an answer because we actually moved up our conference like a day that we moved it up in the week. So now we have Saturdays that are more open. And I'd love to explore like creating more mastermind schedule. But basically the mastermind, it's 5 hours. And then we have 3 different speakers that come in and speak. And we do a lot of like intentional work. And it's just a very cool thing that we put together. And then I partner with Daryl Vesterfelt has helped me run the mastermind for the last 3 or 4 years. A while, because I'm running around like a mad human, I can't do everything. And
yes, you can, Haley.
I can do it all. And so Daryl's partnered with me on that. And he's just like, a wealth of knowledge in the creator economy. And it's by far one of my favorite things that we do at the event.
I love it. I mean, that kind of leads me into my next thought is like, we're doing so many different things well, and we're seeing success in all these different areas, from the mastermind to the speaker dinner, and we're pulling in different creative ideas into each of these like smaller events. But also, what else can we be doing? Like as you think about next year and planning, like, okay, how do we get more masterminds in? How do we get more like photography style shoots to more people? Or is there another element that you're like, I can't wait to like add this in? Have you thought about these things yet?
I think about it all the time. I mean, okay, here's like something that I think is really important. Like you're just never going to make everybody happy. You have to know that as an event organizer that everybody is going to have opinions, right? And there are some opinions that are like, there are things that are outside of my control. Like for example, like I can't, in our particular venue, if you're watching this and you've attended Craft and Commerce, I don't control the air conditioning. Okay. I don't control it.
And we've tried.
You know.
We've also found out that it's kind of maybe broken.
But maybe broken, but also like it's better if it's cooler. Okay. Like you're more aware, bring a jacket and you're more aware. But there are those sorts of things like pieces of feedback, right? That sometimes like I love hearing, like it's important to hear that feedback.
Yeah,
but there's some things that are like outside of my control, right?
Yep.
And so you have to separate like those things that are outside of your control from those things that are inside of your control. And those are the things that I like spend my time focusing on. Yeah. One of the things that we changed is the schedule.
Yeah.
We changed, very early on with Craft and Commerce initially, it was a Thursday, Friday, Saturday event, right? And that meant that all day on Saturday you were at the event and you flew out either Saturday night or Sunday morning. And what we learned was that people really valued their weekends and that more of our attendees were on the professional creator side.
Well, it changed.
It did change.
Originally, these were like hobbyists, people who did it on the side. And then the creator economy changed.
Yes.
And now they're more professional creators and they want their weekends at home.
Yes. And they really valued their time with their family.
Yes.
And, you know, like they didn't want to be working all week and then working all weekend. And so we moved it up because their primary job was them as a creator, right? They weren't hobbyists. Like, so it's not like they had to take days off of work to go to a conference. And that was like one major thing that we changed based off of feedback. And I'm so happy we did that. It also increased, attendance on Friday, right?
Yeah.
Because we had a lot of people that were leaving at the end of the event and missing our final keynote because they were trying to get home.
Yes. Or our party.
Or the party or something, which was awesome and you should want to stay for it. But anyways, so that's like one thing that we changed and like leveled up to, I think like just like better support the attendee. And other things like I think about are like when it comes to like really understanding the needs of the creator, I am constantly thinking about scheduling. Who needs to be the person that is teaching? What do creators need? What are the gaps? What's the content that's going to help creators really level up their business? So that's always something that I'm trying to be better at. I don't think that will ever be something that like I won't focus on.
Well, and it's ever changing.
It is.
Because, you know, what you did last year, you can't reproduce the same. Right. And then does it like needs and wants and business, like it's changing.
Yeah, it is
ever
changing.
And so you're always having to think about like, well, what's next? What's coming?
Yeah. But we've gotten feedback on like how long the workshops are or how, for example, like I wish in the workshop, so like we have keynotes and we have workshops, right? The way our conference is structured is we have a keynote block in the morning where the entire attendee group is together. Then we have a workshop block. It's choose your own path and you go to wherever. And then we have lunch, another workshop block, and another keynote block. And the keynotes are designed to do different things than the workshops are. And so it's like I'm trying to be really intentional when I book talent or when I book speakers and educators, for different needs of the event. So our keynotes, like I want them to be TEDx style, mixed with like masterclass. So I want you to be insanely inspired, but I also want you to be furiously writing notes, right? And you can't have just inspiration or just notes, right?
Yeah.
Like that's not going to be what like keeps people engaged during a keynote. They're also only 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And so I'm looking for something totally different for keynotes, unless you're a title keynote, right? Like your talk's a little bit longer. But for workshops, I actually want people opening their computers and doing the work. And that is something that we've had feedback on in the past. It's like they don't want to sit in a room and just be taught. not taught, but talked at, they want to actually be doing the work. And that is more of this, like the work that we're doing in the mastermind.
Yeah.
And that is what really makes a good workshop, is when you are opening your computer, you are writing notes, you are making changes, and you are implementing them in your business. And the reason why that is so unbelievably valuable is because when you go to an event, you are flooded with information.
Yeah.
And you, not only are you flooded with information, but you were like, where the bleep do I start? You know, like there's so many things, and you get home and it's just like, oh my gosh, I spent 3 days drinking from a fire hose, and it's so hard to implement what you learned. And so when you were sitting in a workshop, actually doing the work, and you're handed like, you know, worksheets and so on and so forth, like you're building a quiz that you're going to implement like right there on the spot. It's so much more valuable. And those are the types of workshops that I'm looking to have at our event.
I love that. And something to add to that with the main stage speakers is that you give them access to a speaking coach.
Oh my gosh.
Mr.
Yes,
Mike
I'm so happy that you brought up Mike Pacchione.
Sorry, Mike.
It's Mike Pacchione.
Mike P. It's okay. He'll correct us.
You said my last name correctly, so.
I've known you long enough.
Yeah, okay.
It's a hard C.
It's a
But you guys give them access to the best speaking coach there is, whether they are a seasoned speaker or they're maybe somebody who's just, this is their first time on the stage. It doesn't really matter. But Mike helps them walk through their entire talk, their slide decks, how it makes sense, how it's being perceived by the audience. He's giving them feedback. And I really feel like that sets everyone up for success.
It does. It does. Okay. Like here's another thing that like I'm hesitant to like go into, but it's like the whole paying your speakers game. Okay.
Oh, yes.
This is like a very controversial topic.
It is.
Okay?
Yes.
We do pay our speakers, right? And some events do not pay their speakers at all, or they pay every speaker a flat rate fee, right? And it's like a pretty low flat rate fee. And maybe some events fly their speakers in. Maybe they don't fly their speakers in. And every creator has a very like a different reason as to why they choose to speak. They're like, I want the exposure. I want to be positioned as the expert, so on and so forth. At the same time, there's also creators that are saying, charge what you're worth. And right. So like across the creator economy, like it's a very controversial topic. And here's my goal. My goal for our speakers is to one, like I want to have speakers feel insanely confident on stage. I also want to book speakers that maybe have never been on a stage before, but they should be, right? They're so insanely talented, and I want to give them an opportunity to be on stage. And I want them to like have high quality video that they can use for their speaking reel and will help them get paid in the future. And I want them to feel insanely prepared, which like brings in Mike, right? So we have this amazing speaking coach in Mike who helps them. Like he has, if you're looking for a speaking coach, like go find Mike Pacchione. He's incredible. I actually did Speech Club with him, which is this amazing offering that he has where he puts like 5 to 10 people together and you meet weekly and you go over your talk and he teaches you like, it's incredible. Like, seriously, look at Mike. To Mike, if you're trying to get on stage and feel confident. But all of those things combined, right, are going to like help create like a really well-rounded speaker, like to be on the stage. But I also, like I said, I'm trying to provide them value, whether it's like paying for a speaking coach, providing them a stipend for travel, paying them a speaker fee, and it's like trying to figure out what the right balance
and photos at the speaker dinner
and trying to and giving them an opportunity, but trying to find the right balance of what all of those like all of that is. And not every event does that. And everybody has different opinions on this and like very strong opinions on this. And there's a lot of content creators out there that make a living off of their speaking fee. Right. And so it's like, it's just a very interesting like game.
Yeah, it is very interesting.
Because like what, and it's just like, it's a very interesting game. That's like a whole rabbit hole of a conversation. But what I'm trying to do is just create like the most amazing value and opportunity for my speakers that makes like, is like, it again is more of a partnership, and it's not this transactional situation.
Yeah.
And I think the fact that it feels like a partnership for us with our speakers, it makes it more valuable for them and for us, right? Like I want my speakers to come to the mastermind because it's insanely valuable to them.
Yeah.
And not because, like I'm just like, I want them to come. I want them to sit down and meet other attendees. Yeah. I want them to be at the speaker dinner connecting with other speakers. I want them engaging with Mike because it's going to make them better, even if they're a seasoned speaker.
Yeah.
I want them working on a new talk to like increase their repertoire. To like, have a Rolodex of all these different talks that they can give. I want to pay them because I believe that they're worth it. I want to partner with them on other content in our business, and I want it to feel like a partnership. And I think that that is a massive miss for a lot of, quite honestly, events that and how they partner with their speakers.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think the difference too is that you have a relationship with a lot of these speakers, and it's not just like a cold call of like, hey, I saw you, blah, blah, blah. I'd like to hire you for our event. Cool. Great. Here's my speaker fee and all, and everything I require. And then that's that. That's totally for me. Whenever I think about like corporate conferences and stuff like that, that's where those big speaker fees come in. That's where you have a lot of like full-time speakers earning a living doing this, right? It's a very different experience. But I think in this situation too, I think that because there's a partnership, that maybe they're charging a huge exorbitant fee for speaking at those types of conferences. But because we're giving them so much value in return, and the community is just so unique. It's almost like they're participating and learning just as much as our attendees are. They're not there to just hop on stage for 20 minutes and go home.
Well, the thing is though, like, this is my hope, right? Like, I still think we have like a long way to go. Not a long way to go. I still think that we can get better in like that partnership between like speakers and event.
Yeah.
But like, that is my ultimate goal, is to create something that it's like, if I ask you to speak, there is no possible way that you are saying no to it, even if the fee doesn't match your typical speaking fee, because of value. Now, let's just be clear. Like, I'm not afraid to say this, but we make no money on Craft and Commerce. Craft and Commerce is, it is a way that we give back to our community, right? We spend money on this event. Every event out there that exists that is not tied to something like ConvertKit, right? Because ConvertKit itself, like, we make our money as a business through our, like, essentially SaaS revenue, right? Our recurring fees that we charge our customers for our platform. Well, Craft and Commerce, like, is number one, it's a pretty inexpensively priced conference. That's really important to us. It is. We know it's expensive to get to Boise, so thank you for coming. But we try to keep like our ticket price like really reasonable. And we try to provide as much value as we possibly can, obviously, to our attendee. But we are not making money on this event. And so like my hands are tied a little bit, as much as like, as far as like
what the budget allows.
What the budget allows, right? So we have to be really, really creative with what we're doing with our budget. And that includes, it's like, okay, what is our, like, literally we're thinking of every little detail, like the venue that we use, to the, like the production team, to, the food, and we're trying to balance all of these things, and speaker fees like are included in that. And so it's like, my goal is to provide an insane amount of value for anybody that speaks at Craft and Commerce. So they are literally like, I would never turn down the opportunity to speak at Craft and Commerce, even if I can't pay them, quite honestly, what they are worth, right? Because I believe they are worth the amount that they're charging.
Yeah.
And I believe that that is like a huge monetary, that's a monetization stream that a ton of creators have in their business. And so I don't want to devalue that. I just want to provide value if I can't meet that.
Yeah.
So
as we wrap up, what are your, like, if you could just sum up like the things that you think about the most, like what are the highest priority, most creative, most important things as you think about producing this well done, highly creative, highly intentional event? Can you do that?
if I can sum up, okay.
If you can sum it up into like bullet points or what your top priorities are when you think about this event.
My top priority is to think about her. No, I know it's not her, but I just because of,
our peeps.
Yeah, our peeps, is to put your attendee at think about your attendee in everything that you are doing. Sponsors. Who does my attendee need to meet?
Okay.
Right? What does my attendee like to eat? Like whatever, mac and cheese. Yeah. Cinnamon rolls. Gosh, I loved those cinnamon rolls this year. But like what experiences does my attendee need to have? Who does my attendee need to hear from? What relationships is my attendee looking to build in their business? What, just like literally thinking about them and putting them at the forefront of every decision that you're making is like my biggest piece of advice. And if you can do that, you're going to be I think you'll be really successful. So if you can think about that, I think that's really insanely important. On the other side of things, there's also like, oh, you know what? This is something that your team deserves an insane amount of credit for. But you are so good at like communication. You handle all of the sponsor communication essentially once we close a deal, right? Or we sign a contract with a sponsor, as well as like the information or like what happens after we sign a deal with a speaker. Your team handles that and making sure that people like feel really taken care of and they have all the information. But your attendee has to have all the information, right? Because like nobody likes not knowing things, especially when you've invested money to go somewhere. Your team does such a good job of handling that and helping us with that. So just like making sure that the information is readily available. Other things that I think about are, thinking about your attendee, making sure people have all the information. What comes to mind for you? Like,
I'm just thinking like, as from our conversation today, value to your sponsors.
Oh, yes. Okay.
And partners, value to your partners.
Yeah. On the sponsorship side, like I said, if you can think of your sponsors as partners and not as sponsors, I think it changes the conversation immensely. Yeah. I feel really strongly that like I made a huge, actually, you like just being transparent, you used to handle our sponsorship sales.
I did, yeah.
And you handled sponsorship sales because you wanted to increase our budget. Because you needed to increase our budget.
And at the time, nobody was willing to do it.
Nobody was willing to do it.
And I said, I know we can get more money if we get sponsors. And so Nathan said, fine, if you can go do it, go do it.
You go do it.
Okay.
And I took over sponsorships this year because for like the single reason, I didn't know how it was going to evolve, but for the single reason that they were wanting more from us long term.
Yep.
And you as a non-ConvertKit employee, you didn't have the power or ability to say like, oh, here are other ways that we could partner in the business. You were limited to just the partnership and things that happened within the confines of craft and commerce. And so that was my goal, was when you think about sponsorships, it's like, how can you be more deeply embedded in other areas of the business and essentially providing value for them throughout the year.
Yeah. It's not just the event, it's the partnership.
That's what our sponsors wanted. And my goal is to continue to get better at doing that. So
I love all of this advice because I think it's so important to talk about all the successful pieces. Yeah, I mean, we talked about stuff that we're thinking about and that didn't work. But one last question for you.
Ooh, okay.
Okay, now you've had 2 years with Craft and Commerce. Like, do you have a moment or an experience or a situation that happened that you just love?
I mean, I have so many. And I can think of like external things and internal things. I'm going to think of two. I'm going to say two. My first one is this year, there was this amazing photo that was taken that was circulated like on LinkedIn. I saw it like when our photographer shared it. It's this photo with like, I'm just going to name like a handful of people that were sitting in this photo, but it was like Ollie Abdal, Chanel Basilio, Jay Klaus was sitting there. Kat Mulvihill was in this picture. A few other folks that I don't remember everybody's name. A few other folks that I don't remember their names. And Charlie Prangley on our team. And the reason why the picture was circulated is because they were saying like, I never thought I would have a seat at this table, right? And it was this like two of our title keynotes, a bunch of our other workshop speakers, and a bunch of attendees, right?
Yeah.
And in this photo, I thought it was so cool because it was just like an example of the experience that we are creating for all of our attendees. And I am looping our speakers into our attendees. I think that it was so cool to see our speakers pouring into creators like attendees, and our attendees providing value to speakers, and like us, everybody being in the room together, all having the same shared experience, and quite honestly, experiencing the same problems. And I had this one experience once. I went to an event called Mom 2.0, and Jen Hatmaker was the keynote speaker. And she did this incredible activation. I've actually stolen it, and I've done it several times. And it's one of my favorite things to do. I do it a little bit differently, but what she did is she shared this very raw and vulnerable thing that was happening in her life, right? And there was it was like 1,000 people in this room. And what she asked the attendees or the audience to do is, if they were experiencing the same thing, they had to yell out same. Okay. So she shared this thing, and then they yelled out same. And then if somebody else like would say, you know, like, I'm struggling with X, right? And then everybody who was experiencing, and then it was just like this ripple effect of everybody, you know, waterfall effect of everybody doing this. Now, what it did is it showed that we are all human. We all have the same problems. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter if you're standing up here on stage. It doesn't matter if you're in the audience. Like, we're humanity, and we all experience the same things. And so I kind of took that idea and I did it like within the context of the creator economy and like experiences or things that we all are experiencing. So like growing from 0 to 100 subscribers, quite honestly, actually going from 0 to 10,000 subscribers or 100 subscribers is harder than going from 100,000 to 1 million. Like, anybody will say that. But that's you know what that problem is? It's scaling and growth.
Yeah.
And that means that like you are having the same problem as Ollie Abdal is having. He's trying to grow his business and scale his business. And that's just like a really important reminder that just because you're at different stages of your business doesn't mean that you don't have the same problems.
Yeah.
Right? Monetization
and that we can't learn back and forth.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so that is something that I just like, I really loved this like idea of like the shared brain and shared systems.
Yeah.
And then just like making sure that like there's no like elitism, you know, like amongst attendees. And so like that picture was just like really cool to see. And I just loved that. The other one, I know you asked me to be really succinct and I'm not doing
That's
that.
Okay.
The other one is this year my co-host was Shiv, who's Shiv Chibber, who's our creator educator. Now, if you don't know Shiv and I have like a very bantery relationship, and it's like super authentic and fun. And Shiv is a performer, and I MC Craft and Commerce as well, or at least this is the second year that I MC'd Craft and Commerce. And Shiv was my co-MC this year, and he just was like meant for it. He shined. And he like is meant to be on a stage, and he's meant to perform. And he came out in like a Taco Bell outfit, and he did impressions of.
It was so good.
Oh my gosh, he was just so good. He did Ted Lasso impressions, and he was so much better than me, and so funny, and so relatable. And I just like really like watching people like thrive. Actually, it's my favorite thing about speakers because there are times where like I book somebody who doesn't actually want to speak and I'm like really pushing them to it. And I'm obsessed with watching people accomplish something or do something that they really wanted to do. I seriously cry. I cannot watch an Olympic moment and not cry.
Aww.
I cannot do it. Maybe it's like the former athlete in me, but
Coach Haley.
Yeah. But just watching somebody accomplish something is like probably one of my favorite things in the entire world. And so watching Shiv just like get up on stage and be the MC and like literally thrive in this environment. I just loved it. It was so fun.
That's great.
So, yeah.
I love talking about all things events and being creative, thinking outside of the box, being intentional. Something that is a favorite thing of mine is finding ways to be able to accomplish that and see the success in events. So I appreciate.
Before I'm not going to let you wrap up here.
We're not done yet.
Oh yeah, we're not done yet. Let me just like say, because I honestly don't even know how you're going to use this content. I don't know what's going to happen with it. I don't know where it's going to go, but I will say this. You cannot run an event and not have a partner like a Sona. I don't know. Maybe your partner is Sona, and maybe it's not a Sona, but you cannot run an event unless you have a team that is like Danielle. And you guys do such an incredible job of partnering with us, number one, of taking on, quite honestly, the lion's share of the work by being insanely detail oriented and like really understanding our mission, our vision, our values, our like why we do this event. Like we're so lucky that you've been with this event for us for such a long period of time. Like you and our production team have been with us pretty much since the beginning.
Yeah.
And you know how we do things, but
I also know way too much about email marketing.
You do know a lot about email marketing. But quite honestly, we could not do this without your team, without you, without Michelle. And I'm so grateful to you. And I feel like I could just, say a million more things about the value that you bring to this event. But it's really, really important that you have a partner that you trust when producing an event like this, because there's just so many logistics. So many logistics. And you just handle it flawlessly. And I'm just so grateful for you and your partnership.
Thanks, Haley. I appreciate you.
You're welcome.
Oh, obviously I don't take compliment well.
You don't. Just say like, you know what? You're right. I'm kind of a boss.
You're right, Haley. I'm kind of a boss.
There you go.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I appreciate you.
You're welcome.
But I appreciate our partnership, and I appreciate you sharing all the behind the scenes tidbits and secrets and just the thought process behind creating such a great event. So thank you so much.
Thank you, friend.
Till next time.
Till next time. Heyo.